Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 1 to 4 player game, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, designed by Brian Bormueller and published by Office Dog, who helped sponsor this video. Set in the world of J.R.R. Tolkien's beloved tale, here you'll be taking on the role of the Fellowship, working to overcome the evil forces that would prevent you from destroying the One Ring in the fires of Mount Doom. The game comes with 18 chapters you'll play through that tell an ongoing story, with each providing unique challenges. When finished, you can reset to play again, or play the standalone mode, which combines many of the most challenging elements of the individual chapters. When you first open the box, you'll find the game divided into 3 sections. Everything you need for your first game, known as the first chapter, you'll find in this section, which you can empty using this tab. Once you beat the first chapter, you'll find chapters 2 through 12 in this section, and chapters 13 to 18 here. We're going to start by learning everything you need to know for your first game without spoiling what comes in later chapters, allowing you to discover those surprises on your own. So, join me at the table and let's learn how to play. All the components we need are in this section, so we'll take them out, leaving everything else in their related sections. To begin, find this Chapter 1 card and read the story text it shows. Then flip it over and take note of the character names it lists here. Find these characters, ensuring that the one named Frodo is flipped to the side for your number of players. We'll assume we have 3 players in this video. You use this side in a 1 or 4 player game, and just so you know, this side that we're using for 3 players is also the side you use in a 2 player game as well. There are some special rules for 1 and 2 player games, and we'll cover the 2 player rules at the end of this video, and at the same time, briefly summarize the solo play. Speaking of which, you'll find 6 player reference cards at the bottom of the deck, and 2 are specifically for a 2 player game, so we can set those aside. But then we deal one of these general reference cards to each player, returning any extras back to the box. You'll notice the chapter card has an asterisk by certain character names. Set one of these star tokens on each of those characters, leaving any extra tokens nearby. All the remaining cards have this back and make up what is known as the main deck, and I think it would help to take a tour of what we'll find in here. Each card comes in one of 5 different types, also known as suits. Each suit has its own color and symbol in this area, and they're known as hills, mountains, shadows, forests, and rings. Each card also has a value known as its rank. Every suit, except for rings, has a card valued from 1 to 8, where the rings only have values 1 through 5. You'll find a reminder of the card distribution here on this side of your player aid. I should also draw your attention to this value 1 ring. As we'll see, it's important during the game, so keep an eye out for it. We now shuffle all the cards from the main deck, dealing 1 face-up near the chapter. This is known as the lost card. If you happen to reveal the 1 of rings, also known as the 1 ring, deal a new lost card and shuffle the 1 ring back into the deck after. This ensures the 1 ring is never the lost card. Either way, now deal the rest of the main deck to the players according to the player count shown here in the rulebook, so 12 cards each in this 3-player game, keeping in mind that we'll look at the unique elements of the 2-player game later on. You'll examine your own cards, but keep them a secret from the other players. However, the player holding the 1 of rings should now announce to the rest of the table that they have it. They collect the Frodo character to put in front of themselves and this ring token, putting it nearby with this colorless side face up. Then, starting at the Frodo player's left and going in clockwise order, each other player picks one of the remaining characters. Any character with a star token must be chosen during this process, but they don't have to be picked first. So if the next player picked Pippin as their character, then the final person in our 3-player game must pick Bilbo as their character. Why you might pick one character over another will likely be based on the cards you're holding in your hand, but how those will influence your choice will make more sense once we know more of the rules. Any unchosen character you can just return to the box. And each player should now remove the star tokens from their chosen character if they have one, putting them in a central supply. Then, starting with the player to Frodo's left and going clockwise around the table, each person with a character that has set up actions, indicated by this icon, must now resolve the related instructions. In this case, the Pippin player must exchange one card with either the Frodo, Sam, or Merry character. You'll notice we didn't have a card for Sam or Merry, and that's because they get introduced in later chapters. So in this first game, Pippin would have to exchange with Frodo. Anytime a player must perform an exchange, they first pass any one card of their choice from their hand to the other player, Frodo in this case, who then adds it to their hand and then must pass any one card of their choice back, which could even be the card they just received. Just ensure that none of the other players can see which of the cards got exchanged. You'll notice Bilbo doesn't have any setup actions, but Frodo does. We're reminded that they'll have the One Ring, and in any exchange made with them, they can't exchange the One Ring. We're also told they'll lead the first trick, which we'll learn about in a moment. But otherwise, that's the setup. In The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, you and the other players will be engaging in a style of play often referred to as trick-taking. If you're not familiar with this type of game, don't worry, we'll cover everything you need to know. In the game, each player will have a personal goal found beside the star symbol here on their character card. Oftentimes, these will refer to winning a certain number of tricks, which is a term we'll learn about later, or from winning certain types of cards. For example, the Frodo player needs to win 4 or more cards from the ring's suit, but notice that amount changes in a 4-player game. The first chapter is played over the course of a single round, and a round is made up of what are known as tricks. During a single trick, each person will play a single card, and the first person to go is known as the lead player. As it says on Frodo's card, they always lead the first trick. So that player picks any one card from their hand to play face up into the center of the table. This is known as playing a card into the trick. The suit found on this card is known as the lead suit. So here, hills were led for this trick. Now going in clockwise order, each other player must play a single card into the trick. But the card they play must match the suit that led the trick if possible. This is known as following suit. Continuing in clockwise order, the Pippin player is next. So if they have hill cards in hand, they must pick one to play. And sure enough, they do. Perhaps they'll pick this one to follow suit with. The Bilbo player is next, but looking at their hand, they don't have any hill cards. When it's impossible to follow suit, you can play any card you have, and maybe they choose this one. After each player has added one card to the trick, you check to see who won it. The winner is the person who played the highest valued card in the suit that was led. So in this example, the Frodo player led with a hill card, and this was the highest valued hill card played. So this player, Pippin, wins the trick. Now I said the highest value played in the lead suit always wins. But there is an exception. In this example, we'll assume the Pippin player is leading the trick and they lead it with this green forest card. That means each other player must now add a forest card to the trick if they have one. And we'll assume the Bilbo player does and that the Frodo player does not. That means they can pick any card from their hand to add to the trick, and we'll assume they add in this One Ring card. The text at the bottom says, "You may choose to win this trick." That means when the One Ring is played into a trick, the person playing it may decide to win the trick no matter what has been played so far or what might be played into that trick after. Going back to our example where the Frodo player put the One Ring into the trick, we'll assume that they've declared they're going to use its power. Now, when looking at this trick, you'd normally think this card would win since it's the highest value in the led suit. But since this player has decided to use the One Ring's power, they will win the trick no matter what. That said, when playing the One Ring, you can declare you won't be using its power, and in that case, it just counts as a value 1 ring, which here doesn't match the lead suit, so it can't win the trick. In that case, the Bilbo player would win the trick. The One Ring is the only ring card with this power. These other ring cards don't have that ability and don't automatically win tricks. To win a trick with one of these, a ring card would need to have been played as the led suit, and then as normal, the player who put the highest valued card of the led suit into the trick would win it. So in this case, Bilbo. Of course, if a person had played the One Ring and chose to use its power, it would win the trick instead. There is one catch. Despite the example I just showed, during a round, you're not allowed to lead a trick with a ring card. At least not at first. This is indicated by the ring token, which starts on its colorless side as a reminder that no player can start or lead a trick with a ring. However, as soon as someone chooses to play a ring into a trick when they couldn't follow suit, you then flip this token over, and from now on, any player can choose to lead a trick with a ring. Here's one last consideration with tricks. If the ring token is on its colorless side, but the player about to lead the trick only has ring cards in their hand, which would be pretty rare and would happen towards the end of a round when people have very few cards left in their hand. In that case, they can lead with a ring card because they don't have any other option. And that would also flip this token over. All right, here I've set up an example where Frodo led with a hill card and Pippin won the trick by playing the highest valued card in the led suit. Once you've determined who won the trick, they collect the cards from it and set them all face down in front of themselves. Then that player starts the next new trick, playing a card from their hand as the lead suit. And you'll continue playing tricks with the winner of each one collecting the trick and then leading the next one. As a player gains multiple tricks, it's a good idea to offset them like this so you can easily see how many tricks each player has. This is important because each player has a character they control who will have their own unique goal indicated beside this star icon. For example, Bilbo is trying to win 3 or more of the tricks played during the round. On the other hand, Pippin's goal is to win the fewest tricks, which includes tying for fewest. So while Bilbo will be trying to win tricks, Pippin is actively trying to lose them. Frodo, on the other hand, needs to win 4 or more ring cards. This means when the round is over, the Frodo player will need to have 4 or more ring cards among the tricks that they won. Now, to make this easier to keep track of during the game, that player can feel free to pull the rings out of any tricks they've won and display them face up so people can easily see the progress being made towards that goal. Gandalf wasn't picked in our example 3-player game, but his goal is to win 1 or more tricks. Remember, to win, every player needs to reach their goal before the end of the round. So while you're trying to accomplish your own goal, you also need to help everyone else accomplish theirs too. As soon as a player fulfills their goal and it's clear it can't be failed in later tricks, they put one of these star tokens on their card as a reminder to everyone that their goal is complete. Tricks will continue being played until all the cards in everyone's hands have all been played, ending the round. Now, if Gandalf was a character chosen in your game, their player will have 1 card left over because of the particular rules related to this character's setup. Either way, at the end of the round, if every player has completed the goal on their character, they are said to have finished all the chosen characters. And as indicated here, the game has ended in a victory. This is known as a short victory. However, if even 1 player fails to meet their character's goal, the players all lose. If you lose, reset the chapter and try again. But once you win the chapter, you'll advance to the next one and its new challenges. You'll find Chapter 2 by lifting this cover. Here on top, we have its chapter card, and you'll draw cards from this section, stopping once you get to the next chapter's card. To avoid ruining any surprises, I'll keep these cards from Chapter 2 mostly covered, but you may find new characters, new rules, and new types of cards in each chapter you explore. The details for these new elements can be found by checking these various sections of the rulebook when you come to them. There's also a handy guide here with additional answers to questions you might have about specific future chapters. We're not going to go into all of those details here, as discovering those new elements on your own is part of the fun. That said, there are a few other general rules we should go over. First of all, during any game, players are only allowed to discuss information that is visible to all the players. You can't discuss or show cards that you have in your hand. And during setup, you can't express a character preference you have, as that might reveal something about the cards you're holding. Remember, players will pick their characters in clockwise order from Frodo, and their choices should not be influenced by what someone else thinks they should pick. That said, you can remind people of your character's goal or discuss strategies based on information that everyone can publicly see. I should also point out that in some future games, the victory conditions, like we see here, will be listed as long rather than short. Players will choose from the available options as usual, ensuring that any with an asterisk are always chosen. But at the end of the round, if you've completed the goals of all the characters you just played with, you collect them together and set them aside. You then reset the deck and the ring token and play another round of the same chapter. Players are free to pick characters they completed previously, but don't have to, because your goal is to keep playing and succeeding at rounds until you've completed the goal of every character listed on that chapter. Any character with an asterisk must be chosen during each round you play of a long victory chapter. But also be aware, you can choose a character you had finished during a previous round of play during this chapter, and you might do that if you feel like your hand of cards would work better with one of those characters than attempting an unfinished character. Either way, as long as you always complete your chosen character's goals, you'll keep playing until you've completed every character for that chapter at least once. The chapter might indicate a specific character you don't have to complete. For example, if we never pick Bill the Pony to play, leaving his goal unfinished, we can still complete the chapter as long as we've finished every other listed character. But if during any round of that chapter, you failed the goal of any character that was picked, even if it's Bill the Pony's in this chapter, you lose the entire chapter and then start over. Now, when you start over, the rules do leave it up to you. You can start that chapter over from scratch, setting every character's goal as incomplete, or by keeping any you had completed in that chapter so far, and just starting from the last round that you failed. Okay, with that understood, I should mention that when you complete all 18 chapters, the game isn't over. In the rulebook, you'll find instructions for how to keep playing by going through all the chapter cards and collecting any with a black and gold number box. These number boxes are found in each card's corner, and you can also use these to reset the entire game when you're done if you want to play all the chapters again from the beginning. Just put all the cards back in numerical order. If you want to play the ongoing game, take all of the black and gold numbered cards and follow the instructions here to create a single challenging game you can replay and attempt to improve on. With all of that covered, we should now take a look at the rule changes when you're playing with just two people. First, after dealing a lost card to the chapter, you'll then deal out 3 hands of cards, 1 to each player, and an extra that you set aside. The player dealt the 1 of rings collects Frodo as usual and the ring token, ensuring Frodo is flipped to the 3-player side. They also take the hand of cards that was dealt but set aside, and without looking at them, deals a row of 3 of them like this to their right, with the ones on either side face up. Then they deal 4 face down, overlapping the previous cards like I'm doing here, and then they deal the remaining cards face up in this way to overlap that second row. You'll find a reminder of this layout right here on the other side of the 2-player reference. Now, as before, going clockwise from Frodo, the other player picks one of the characters. We'll have them pick Bilbo. Then the turn comes to the pyramid, and the Frodo player now picks one of the remaining characters to assign to it. During the game, the Frodo player will make all of the choices and control this pyramid character, which again should be sat at the table to the Frodo player's right. However, when the cards were first dealt out, if neither of the human players had the one ring in their hand, that means the one ring must be in the other hand of cards that were set aside. If so, you build the pyramid as usual from those set aside cards, but then assign the Frodo character to the pyramid, since the pyramid will have that one ring somewhere in its display, either face up or face down. And then, wherever this pyramid was set up at the table, the player seated to its right will control it. The pyramid can be exchanged with during setup, but the character controlling it can only give a card back from the face-up cards in the bottom row, or of course they can give back the card that they were just given. If they do give back a card from the bottom row, the card they received goes into that position. If a character is assigned to the pyramid, which gains additional cards into their hand, for example, Gandalf collects the lost card to put into his hand, those extra cards are placed to the left or right of the bottom row. With that understood, I should mention that during the game, when you're playing tricks and it comes to the pyramid's turn, the person controlling it is only able to play a card from it that has no other cards on top of it. So at the start of the game, that means only the cards from this row. As the game goes on and cards are played from the pyramid, if at the end of a trick there's a card face down there, you flip it face up, and this becomes a new one that can be played. Otherwise, the two-player game follows all the same rules. Now, if a chapter has some specific adjustments that might affect a two-player game, you'll find that listed under the chapter-specific questions area of the rulebook. There are also rules for solo play detailed here in the rulebook. In this mode, you'll control 4 characters and a partial hand for each of them, playing cards from these into tricks, trying to accomplish each character's goals while gaining new cards for each character after each trick. In this way, you'll have to make decisions based on which cards you can see, knowing that there will be more revealed as the round goes on. But the solo rules I'll leave for you to discover on your own. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can join our Patreon team, which I'll have linked below. But until next time, thanks for watching.